100.3 FM, The Source.
Yesterday we had an interesting discussion about how much you should set aside to keep your car maintained, right?
Yes.
And the number came up, $75 a month should be spent on maintenance of your car. I know. I don't ever do that. And so we were talking to Matt, our mechanic, and he was saying, well, you don't have to spend it that much. You just put it away, and then when something comes up, you'll have it waiting for you instead of, being hit with a major disaster. Same thing for your house, right? You have to put away money for the sink leaking or something like that, right? Yes. Jodi Olshevski has been with us before. She's the executive director of the Hartford Center for Mature Market Excellence, and she's talking to us about that very thing, planning financially for home maintenance needs. What a timely topic. Good morning, Jodi. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well, thanks.
Where are you? Do you call from Connecticut?
Yes, Hartford, Connecticut.
All right. Hartford, yes. All right. Joe Martone's in here. He's from Connecticut. He loves Connecticut. He loves the pizza up in New Haven, by the way.
Pepe's.
Have you ever been to Pepe's in New Haven?
I have been to the Pepe's West Hartford.
Oh, the Pepe's in West Hartford.
in Hartford.
They're all different.
Oh, okay. Nice.
I don't know. He keeps telling us it's the best in the world. I'm not sure. I have to try it myself. So thank you for being on the... How's the weather today?
It's a little rainy when I came in, but, on the warmer side for us.
So tell me about this. Is there a dollar amount or not? How do we plan financially for home maintenance needs?
Yeah, we didn't really look at the dollar amount, but I think that what you were saying earlier is so critical, and particularly as we're moving into our later years about all the other financial issues and things we plan for. We don't often think about the actual structure of our home and how critical that is to helping us stay in our home as we age, if that's something that we want to do. And so we just conducted research at the Hartford here with MIT Age Lab to really understand this issue more.
I mean, it really does it hits us hard when all of a sudden you need some plumbing fixed and you find out it's a couple $1,000s. I mean, or, any dollar amount is usually unexpected, but it's part of life. And that goes for the landlord too. If you're a landlord, it's even worse because you got to make sure you're putting money away from your rent that people are paying.
Yeah, these home maintenance issues can be expensive, and so it is important to factor that in and plan for it. And I think there are a lot of things that you can try to prevent greater damage from going on as well, and we looked into that as well.
Are any of these things covered by insurance?
I think that it depends what it is that's going on. One of the things that we suggest is that individuals think about how to prevent damage from happening prior to having a problem. And one of those ways of doing that is by having smart home technologies. We found in our research that only about 1% of people have something that's called a smart water shutoff valve, which can be particularly helpful and important around the issue of water damage, which we know is a devastating and a pretty common problem. So that's an example of some of the suggestions that we think people should consider.
And I never even heard of that before. What we've always heard is that make sure you know where the valve is to turn it off. But
right.
you're saying there's actually technology, if you're not even home, it'll turn it off.
Yeah, there's smart water shutoff valves, and then right along with that is a water mold monitoring sensor. And when those two work together, right, even if you're away from the home, you're in really good shape. And then there are also a smart smoke and carbon monoxide detector. So each of these, has an advantage, gives you an advantage on knowing and preventing problems so that you might actually be able to just go to the hardware and get something to fix it or just have a regular service call versus finding out that you have extensive damage, which can be not only stressful to an individual or family, but also very costly.
Do you think mature homeowners delay repairs, some of them because they have children and they've worked all these years, they've laid away a nice nest egg, and that they want to be able to give that money to their children when they die, so they're very careful how they spend it?
I'm not sure. The reasons that we found in our research, the top one was that most or a lot of people didn't think it was a problem right now, right? Which is part of why we're trying to get the word out, because a small thing can turn into a bigger thing later. And then affordability and time were two of the other issues. And kind of interesting, we found that for homeowners in their 50s and 60s, they seem to have more frustration with keeping up with home maintenance. I think due to competing priorities, right? There's a lot going on during.
Oh, lifestyle. Sure. They would much rather travel and things than stay home and address problems.
Yeah, you're talking to us. That's us. Yeah, we're at that point right now. So is there something that, like a website or something with a checklist, or how do we kind of organize our thoughts so that we can maybe prevent an unexpected expense?
Sure. We have a lot of tools that are available on our website, which is thehartford.com/lifetime. We have a guide that you can download with all kinds of checklists and suggestions. We have a virtual home where you can actually see different home maintenance issues and how you can avoid problems. So go to our website and educate yourself and then take action.
I'm just curious about the renter. I mentioned the landlord, but what about the tenant? Is there some way for the tenant to have some protections in place? Because I'm a pretty good tenant. Well, right now I own, but when I have rented, I have always tried to be really great to my landlord, because they've usually been pretty great to me. So like when the air conditioner would break down, I wouldn't bother. I'd call the guy myself, that kind of a thing. But is there insurance for the renter? Just to back up and talk about our research, we really didn't look at renters, but certainly I think you raise a lot of good issues, and I would suggest that, talking to the landlord and figuring out how you're going to approach those issues, because you might identify things, way before they do, that would be really important. And yes, there are also, in addition to homeowner insurance coverage, there's also renter policies that, a renter can purchase.
And was health an issue? Did that show up on your survey?
It did, yes, particularly among people in their 70s and 80s, right? They told us that home maintenance has become harder over time. And that for some people that health is part of that picture. So even if you don't have a lot of medical or health issues going on, it's a little riskier to be climbing up on a ladder the older you are, just because you don't want to have a fall, right? It takes longer to heal, all of those kinds of things. So yeah, I think that was an important issue that came up in our conversation.
I think last time you were on, we told you that we have in this community a lot of assisted living facilities, and for the most part, and Robin and I know them because we go and perform music at them. And I'm telling you, they're beautiful places, and I can see why somebody might be reluctant to move out of their house and into a place like that. But on the other hand, it sounds like what you're saying, whether it's health reasons or not, it might not be a bad idea at that point in our lives.
Well, I think it's an important factor. So, if you want to stay in your home regardless, then you have to figure out how to manage the home maintenance issues. And for a lot of the older homes, they just didn't want to do it anymore. They didn't want to take. So they were looking for service providers for the first time, or their service provider retired. So, in the guide that you can download from our website, we just have some suggestions and checklists on how do you find a trusted service provider to come in. Maybe you've been doing things your own and you don't want to do them anymore, or you don't feel safe doing them. So that's an important factor, to plan for if you are going to stay in your home. And even if you're going to transition into an assisted living, you still want to be thinking about it for when you are there.
The website is thehartford.com/lifetime, right? Lifetime?
That's right. Yeah.
Jodi, good to hear from you. Hopefully the weather gets better up there. It looks like Connecticut's a beautiful place. You just had a hard winter this year.
We did. A hard winter, I think, is what we've had.
Thank you, Jodi. Good to hear from you again.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll be right back.
Why not serve a delicious, intimate, and very easy dinner from Honey Baked Ham of Ocala? They have about the best ham produced ever, and turkey breast or beef pot roast or pork roast.
I thought they just served whole or half hams or turkeys that you picked up at Thanksgiving or Christmas.
They have so much more. They have a cafe and do all kinds of hot